this webinar on mindfulness and how it can actually make you richer, more abundant, more fulfilled in all your relationships in every area of your life, and generally increase the happiness quotient of your life. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Avril Q, an energy healer, a yogini, a Kundalini yoga teacher, a mindful abundance coach, and I'm here to share something very important with you, especially as we go into 2021. So stay tuned, and I hope this resonates with you, and I think it will. It will resonate with most people. Now, if we just go back into the last 10 months of 2020, life has changed drastically for all of us. We all were hit by something invisible to the human eye, a minute virus. But that has been so powerful that it has taken away millions of lives and brought the whole world to its knees, economically and socially. And this has changed life for us forever, at least in this lifetime. On a personal level, it has shattered people on a personal level. Relationships have been drained, strained, broken up. Health has been compromised. Jobs have been lost. Businesses have been closed down. Economies have gone through such a low period. And this is all just the tip of the iceberg. And through all this, something beautiful has emerged. You're probably wondering if I'm mad. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, humanity has emerged in this crisis. Humanity that we had previously lost when we were in the rat race for power, for money, coupled with selfishness and biases. Hustle and invincibility were buzzwords pre-COVID. And then when the virus was unleashed, in an instant, none of the above factors was any more a factor in our lives. All we wished for our loved ones is to be safe, is to be healthy, and to live to see another day. And this is the power of humanity when it comes together. Most of us, we took a short beat to reflect, to think, to reach out, to look within, to have gratitude, to pray, to care, to love, and moreover to just be. We realize that just being is something fundamental. And something fundamentally changed within some people. And you may be one of those lucky few. I know that I am. And that's why I'm here to share it with you. Some of us felt the real need to do a little spring cleaning of the cobwebs of our minds, of the cobwebs in our souls. And we did this with intention. And I always say that intention leads to awareness, leads to change. You see, intention is everything. Intention is the beginning, the middle, and the end of anything that we think, or we do, or we feel. And this brings us in alignment with our true purpose. What do we want to accomplish in our lives? And there is one purpose that's common to all of us. And it's something so simple and something so fundamental. And that's something that is a divine right for each and every one of us. And that is happiness. Now, happiness is not an external thing that we can buy off a shelf. And I know you've heard this before. I know that this has been beaten into you from different self-help and transformation gurus and different, wisdom traditions. But I want to remind you again that happiness is a state of being. Happiness is a state of being. It's an internal state, and it's not governed by a lover, by a spouse, by a friendship, by money, by status, by fame, by religion, by power, by politics. No, my dear precious person, it's who you are inside. And yet we associate happiness with our jobs, our spouses, our lovers, our partners, our place in society, money, rank, and the rest of it. Fame, fortune. And ironically, we need perfect conditions. We want perfect conditions, external conditions. And the more perfect they are, the more we crave. And we think that a state of happiness is basically associated with these external conditions. And it's not. All we need to do is to look inside. There's a saying in Kundalini Yoga, the Guru lies within. The Guru lies within. In all ancient wisdom traditions, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's Vedanta, even in shamanism, emphasis was always placed on a higher self, on the soul, on the real you, on your guiding light that lies within you. And that's the true way to happiness. The only way we can do this is by retreating within ourselves, by establishing a deeper connection with ourselves based on truth and acceptance only. This is actually quite easy to do. And once you build the mental habit and your mental muscles of doing this for just a couple of minutes a day, you will surprise yourself. You will be surprised that you've denied yourself this simple joy and happiness. And this is the easiest way that I can explain mindfulness. Minding your mind. Observing, accepting, and letting go. Now, a layman's perspective of mindfulness could be also explained as such. Mindfulness is paying attention to what is now, without being judgmental, without embellishing it, without reacting to it, just paying attention. Now, in Vipassana, which is a kind of deep meditation or insight meditation, the reason that they give for paying attention to what is so that we can figure out how to be happier. Because if we don't pay attention to what is, then the habits of the mind that make us suffer take over. And those habits are very deeply ingrained in our subconscious. So it requires a conscious, consistent training to train the mind to really pay attention to what is now, just being. How do we make ourselves suffer? Why do we make ourselves suffer? How to stop the suffering? How we can make ourselves happier? What's happening in our entire being right now? Now, the 4 domains or aspects of mindfulness are extremely important to understand, and they are mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feelings or sensations or emotions, mindfulness of the mind, mindfulness of consciousness, okay? And the mindfulness of mental or physical processes. Now, there are 5 hindrances to cultivating these 4 mindfulnesses. Number 1 is sense desire. Desire for visible objects, for sounds, for odors, for tastes, for experiences, for tangible objects. Number 2 is anger, ill will, aversion, hatred, resentment. Number 3 is sloth, mental dullness, heaviness, sleepiness, blockages. Number 4 is remorse, worry, unhappiness about past deeds. Unhappiness at the failure to do what should have been done in the past. Okay, that's the first aspect. The second aspect is unhappiness about a deed which you did, which you should not have done. You did in spite of not maybe wanting to do it or having regret about it. An unwholesome deed which would produce a bad result. Number 5 is doubts. Doubts are a big killer of happiness, a big killer of progress. Now, mindfulness has a huge role to play not only in your personal life but in businesses too. And this has been scientifically backed by a lot of research, not just in one particular area but in so many different areas. Now, the benefits of mindfulness, even though they seem counterintuitive, would be really something to think about, because the fastest growing software companies and corporates of the world, with hugely ambitious growth plans, they actually tell their employees, take time out, slow down, and focus on the present. Why do they do this? Why do they have nap pods? Why do they have mindfulness, exercises? Why do companies like Google and Nike and all the Tony Robbins companies and companies like Virgin and Oprah Winfrey's companies, just to name a few, why have they inculcated mindfulness programs into their culture? Why is mindfulness become such a big buzzword? It simply means minding your mind. So if you're going to mind your mind as an individual, wouldn't it make sense to mind your business and mind the mind of your employees and expect bigger ROIs and get bigger ROIs because you're doing this simple practice? Wouldn't that make sense to you? Of course it would. So let's talk more about this. So according to me, mindfulness reminds us that we are people doing business with other people, being aware and having emotional intelligence. Now, these two things are very necessary to sustain relationships and to grow a business, to bring value or to add value to each person within the company, and in business transactions with companies and with individuals. We live in such a stressful world, in such a distracting world. And we do so many things in the course of a day that our minds can't keep up. We can't focus. We all suffer from that shiny object syndrome, being distracted by social medias, by our phones, by WhatsApp, by 70,000 thoughts per day coming into our minds. We are like, jumping from one branch to another. Our mind is like a monkey mind. We have all noticed that people have long talked about working smarter, not harder. But in reality, we are online 24/7 all over the world. And as a result, most of us have ended up working harder and burning out. We've already burned out in some respects. People as young as 25 are already suffering from stress, anxiety, adrenal fatigue, insomnia, relationship crises, and many more physical, mental, and emotional issues. So we need to be conscious about how to work smarter. Working harder is not always the key. Working smarter, if done with emotional intelligence, can make or break you. We need to take a step back and we need to take time to focus and to deconstruct our old ideologies and our old ways of doing things. So let's start with ourselves and build outward from there. Everything starts within you, like I said. This is your life we're talking about, and you need to get serious about it. Let me tell you from my own experience that mindfulness completely changed my life like night and day. I've been doing this now for about 10 years. And after studying with great Buddhist masters, including receiving teachings from His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, I have come to value mindfulness as a lifesaver. It literally saved my life from the jaws of death when I was at my lowest point and when I was contemplating taking my own life. And mindfulness helped me. And it wasn't like I wasn't earning well. I was earning lakhs a month. I had it all. I was in show business. I was traveling. I had so-called friends. I had money. I had fame. But I asked myself, did I really have it all? Did I really have it all, or was it just a facade? Because I was lonely, I was unhappy, I was miserable on the inside. Mindfulness is that one practice that can give you all the answers you are searching for. It can give you the life that you've always dreamt of. So till we meet again, stay true to being you. I'm your sister on this path of purpose and happiness. I'm Avril Q and I send you tons of love, blessings and good metta. Atma Namaste. Hello there and welcome back to the Mindfulness webinar part 2. So today we're going to be exploring mindfulness on a deeper level. And before we go any further, I just want to congratulate you for taking the initiative and the time to be here. It just shows how serious you are about catapulting your life from where it is now in 2020 to where you want to be in 2021. Because everything begins with something inside you. All desire begins within, all awareness begins within, and therefore mindfulness also as a practice begins from within. We build from within into the without, from within out into the world. Okay, I think we touched upon this last time. Today I want to start with talking about breath work, or as in ancient India, we used to call it pranayama. And those of us who are yogis still call it pranayama. Now, there's a fancy way to put it as breath work, but it's been, gaining attention all over the world. So I'm just going to call it what it is in wider circles as breath work. Now, why is breath so important for mindfulness? In the last session, we discussed about how when you slow down your breath, you slow down your mind. When you slow down your mind, you're in touch with what you're feeling, what you are, you're more aware, and the list goes on and on and on. But breath work, or pranayama, there's something much deeper, okay? Breath work actually regulates your brain. It regulates your endocrine system. It regulates these hormones of adrenaline, dopamine, vasopressin, oxytocin, which are released by the pituitary, the hypothalamus, and the pineal gland, and the adrenal glands. Okay, so your endocrine system is composed of certain glands in your body, which are your pineal gland, your hypothalamus, right here, your pituitary gland, which is a pea-sized gland at the base of your neck. So the pineal and the pituitary are diagonal to each other. Then you have your thyroid here, wrapped around it is the parathyroid. Then you have your thymus gland here. You have your adrenals, which hang off your kidneys in your lower back, and depending upon whether you're a man or a woman, you have your sexual organs, which are your testes or your ovaries, okay? You also have the pancreas, the liver, the gallbladder, which are part of the endocrine system because they also secrete certain, enzymes and certain hormones, and they regulate also. So coming back to why breath work is so important. Breath work is so important because it regulates the state of your brain. It regulates the state of these hormones in your brain. It regulates you to be in a state of readiness or not. It can calm you down when you need calming down. It can rev you up when you're sluggish and you need more energy. Now, this is very important to understand because when I talk about mindfulness, I'm not talking about some esoteric practice. I'm not talking about a passive state of mindfulness. No. That we all can accomplish given a certain amount of time. We all can have a mindfulness practice if it just meant sitting on a yoga cushion or sitting in front of a deity and meditating and chanting and doing mindfulness. Because I know a lot of people who chant, in different traditions all the time. But their minds are still scattered when they get up from their meditation, when they get up from their chanting session. Why is it? Because you're forcing the mind to pay attention to one particular thing. And when you force the mind and it gets used to it, it will kind of get into that mold. However, when you get up from your meditation, there is no sort of system that's going to keep it grounded, rooted, to being aware, to being in the moment. So the monkey mind starts coming back in. For me, meditation and mindfulness is more letting go. It's a letting go of, all these things we hold on to, of our perceptions, of our reality, of conversations, of thoughts, of feelings, of emotions, of judgment, of what people say we should and could and would have been, or what we should, could and, do and be and think. And all these things floating in our minds. It's not a conditioned state. It's actually the opposite of that. Mindfulness should be a state where you just let go And the best way to let go is just to follow your breath. Because breath is life. Breath is energy, prana, chi, kundalini shakti. So when you follow your breath, you're automatically taking your cue from energy. And when you want to ethically, positively manipulate or change this energy, then it's going to put you in a state that you desire. So we can change our state when we are mindful of how we are feeling. If I know I'm feeling depressed, I can use certain breath work like breath of fire. So for example, if I know that I'm depressed or I'm feeling low or I'm not feeling too good, okay, and I want to get out of it, I can use a breath like breath of fire, which is equal inhale, equal exhale, very fiercely flapping your abdomen towards your spine. So you're breathing in, your abdomen is extending towards the front of the room, you're breathing out, you're flapping it towards your spine. It looks something like this. Now we use this in Kundalini Yoga a lot to give us vitality, to give us energy. Because when you're breathing so fast and hard, your body registers it as a stress response to a certain extent. And so it revs up the adrenaline to fight or flight or freeze. Okay? When you mindfully when you use this breath, your body knows and understands that you need extra adrenaline, but it doesn't perceive that external threat. So it will align your body. It will bring your body into rebalance. It will release that adrenaline. Now, when you're breathing so fast and hard, you cannot expect to be depressed or morose or want to give up on life. You're full of vitality, energy, because your nadis are being cleansed, your chakras are being energized, your lungs are being energized. It's shooting oxygen into your brain. Now, this comes only when you're mindful. You were mindful of your state, so you changed it. You didn't go into a meditation because you said, oh, meditation is the only way I can come into homeostasis. I'm going to just sit on my cushion. What if you're feeling a bit uneasy or you're feeling lethargic and you have to go for a meeting? What if you need to drive to a hospital to take somebody, to a hospital and who needs help, and you're lethargic and you're not feeling too good? It's the middle of the night. How are you going to get your energy moving? These are all practices which you can use to get into that state of mindfulness. You're in a mindful state. This person needs my help. I have to go for this meeting. What can I do? Mindfulness is active mindfulness, not just passive mindfulness. So breath work is really important. On the other hand, if you're really hyper and you've got this monkey mind, moving from one branch to another, and you're hyper and you can't sit still, and you've got what do you say? You're over the top, and you have attention, ADD, right? Yeah, when you can't focus, when your attention is not there, and you're jumping from one thing to another. How do you calm yourself down? How first of all, you're mindful about the fact that I'm overreacting, I'm all over the place. What is happening to me? I'm getting very, very disturbed by this. My mind is really going erratic. So you're focused. Now what can you do about it? You can use another breathing pattern. Or you could use Shitali breath. You could use Chin Mudra and just breathe deep. Just 5 cycles of breath, that's all. Meditation will keep you in that place. This kind of mindful meditation, active meditation, will keep you in that space where you know exactly what the antidote is towards whatever you're feeling. You don't need anybody else to kind of regulate you. Remember, we said mindfulness makes you self-regulate. It makes you more empathetic, it makes you more sympathetic, it makes you more aware. This is what you need. You don't need some kind of a drug or an upper or a downer, or even, which are prescription drugs or even recreational drugs. You don't need them, because you have to understand that when your body gets into the habit of not using its own reserves of feel-good hormones like dopamine, vasopressin, oxytocin, even human growth hormone, and it's always relying on some kind of a synthetic drug or a prescription drug, it does not open its pharmacy again. It shuts down. It goes on strike. And you can't be mindful without your vital energy moving throughout your body in a particular fashion, which is why yoga also helps a lot with mindfulness and awareness. So we need to be mindful of these things as to how we can cultivate active mindfulness on the spot in a situation. And I teach these in my 3-hour workshops, in my 1-month programs, in my 3-month programs, in my 6-month programs, with my 2 different programs for individuals and corporates. For individuals, it's Mind Your Mind, and for corporates, it's Mind Your Business. And this affects people, right? So if you're mindful, if you know how to regulate yourself through your breath, through certain visualizations, through certain intentionals or intentionalizing or sankalpas, then you can walk into a meeting turned on, tapped in. You know what you want. You can get the result you want. Or if you're dealing with stress, you know how to handle stress. Or if you're dealing with a team member, you know how to reach that team member because you're self-regulating. You have emotional intelligence through all these practices. And so you can translate that to another person. But my dear friend, if you're not in touch with your own emotions and you don't know how to self-regulate using these different tools and tricks and tips, then how can you understand what your team member is going through? How can you understand what your subordinate or your superior is going through? How can you bring your A game to work every day? It's not possible. You can't operate from a place of stress, anxiety, depression, lack of self-confidence, lack of self-esteem, the monkey mind, not regulating your hormones, because your hormones are your life. And the best way we know how to regulate them is through mindfulness and then through breath work. So, having said that, let me talk to you about something else called yoga kriyas. Now, what are yoga kriyas? Yoga kriyas are basically a sequence of yogic postures in which we align the entire body and the energy system to produce a desired result. So we use mantras, which are chanting sounds, which align us with the primordial sound of the universe. Things like Om or Satnam. These are basically primordial sounds, which are in an ancient language in which the whole sound code is different. Okay, so we use Kundalini Yoga Kriyas. So now we're going to talk about yoga kriyas. Now, what are yoga kriyas? Yoga kriyas are basically when we align the entire body in a certain way to produce a desired result. So it consists of certain pillars like mantras, primordial sounds, sound codes, which are in Sanskrit or Pali, because they have a different vibration which aligns with the primordial wisdom of the universe. Then you have mudras, which are hand gestures, and I have a whole Instagram series on that, and it's even on other social media, where you use the 5 elements which your body is made up of to direct the flow of energy in a particular fashion, in a particular direction, to balance out certain things in your body. Okay, then we have asanas, which are body poses like backward bends, forward bends, warrior poses, Surya Namaskar. Okay, then we have dharana and dhyana, which are basically concentrated focus and then deep relaxation. And we have pranayama. Of course, these are just 5 pillars that I'm talking about. There are other pillars of yoga also, but we'll leave that for another day. With these 5 pillars, what we can do is we can harness our energy into being more mindful beings. Because in order for you to have focus on your breath, to have concentrated focus, to have dhyana, which is basically a deep meditative state, to have a focus on your mantras, on what you're saying, on your mudras, your hand gestures, and the pose in which your body is, you have to be present. So for me, yoga kriyas are imperative for any mindfulness practice. It could be a simple chin mudra, it could be any of these prana or apana mudra, it could be the lotus mudra, it could be Ganesha mudra, it could be anything, whatever you fancy. But if you have a strong yoga kriya practice like I teach in Kundalini Yoga, and in my system of Kundalini Plus, which is 4 different protocols, which basically always put you in a mindfulness state. So when you do this, you're training your brain, you're training your physiology, you're training your energy, you're training your endocrine system, your digestion, you're training your entire being to be in a state of awareness. Because when you're in a state of awareness, then you can choose to do something about your state. But when you're ignorant, like they say, it's bliss. But actually, is it really bliss? It's a fake kind of bliss, because you think that you're, above it all, or you think that you're fine, but you're not really fine. And when you find out, sometimes it's a bit too late. Or, you ruin relationships, or you miss opportunities, or there are so many things which come up as obstacles. That's another thing. When you're aware of what you're doing, obstacles become opportunities. Hindrances, become challenges, but the challenges that you can take on. So your whole perspective changes, okay? The other thing that I want to talk to you about is acknowledging your faults. It's a mindfulness practice to acknowledge your faults without judging, without regret, without blame, without shame, without guilt. Now, at one point in time in my life, I love to tell stories from my own life so that, people know that this happens to everybody, and we are not above it just because we teach it. We have to constantly be in mindfulness and practice what we preach, and I do that every single day because it is my mission to serve you, my purpose to serve you. And if I'm not on top of my game, I have no business teaching this to you. So at one point in my life, I had a very bad relationship with money, in the sense that I would make a lot of money, in upwards of 5 to 6 lakhs, even more sometimes a month, because I used to be in show business. A lot of you know that. But it would never last with me. It would never stay with me. I would find something to spend it on something frivolous, or I would lend it to somebody without expecting it back. Now see, without expecting it back. So already my intention has diverted. Okay? There's no intention of it coming back. Okay? Which is lack of mindfulness in a way, right? Unless I wanted to give it as a gift, but I didn't give it as a gift, I gave it as a loan. Okay? And I used to waste money. I didn't have a mindfulness practice. I would just say, oh, I'll make it next month, I'll make it next month, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll break an FD. Once I got into mindfulness, I noticed that I had wasted close to around 40 or 50 lakhs of rupees. That's a lot of money, okay? If you're in any other part of the world, do the math yourself, okay? So, I realized that what have I done? And having an abundance mindset and having wealth come into your life is also a very mindfulness practice. Because when you have the intention to create wealth, you place your attention on things that generate wealth for you. You know how to grow your wealth. You know how to invest. You know how to, kind of tell people nicely that, no, I'm not very comfortable with this. I want to save my money. I don't want to give it to you because I don't know if you're going to give it back. You're thinking all this, right? So you can tackle that in a nice, subtle fashion, in a diplomatic way. But you understand that you're mindful about your intention to save and invest. You're mindful about your relationship with money. Okay? So coming back to acknowledging distractions or acknowledging our faults. Once we sit in any kind of easy meditation and we start acknowledging and thinking about what are my faults, what always gets me into trouble, just looking and acknowledging, without judgment, without blame, without shame, then you're going to actually be able to do something about it. But if you don't know, then you can't do something about it. And all this comes into mindfulness. So when you build this mindfulness practice through meditation, through breath work, through active mindfulness, okay, we call it walking or waking mindfulness, then everything starts to come into your life in a synergetic fashion. So thank you so much for joining me for part 2 of this mindfulness webinar. And I look forward to seeing you now in part 3. Atma Namaste. And stay true to being you. Hello again and welcome to part 3 of the Mindfulness webinar. Before we go any further, I want to really congratulate you for showing up consistently to this part 3. Because, in life, when we're faced with something new, especially a new concept that we've got to wrap our head around and that requires consistent change, we don't want to do it because we feel so good in our comfort zone. We don't want to inculcate change because change requires effort. And like I said, the body and the mind is all for self-preservation, to keep us safe, to keep us in one place because it feels safe to be there. But it's not really. It tends to get you into a state of stagnation. And the only constant in life, is change. And so I'm so happy that you've shown up here because this concept of mindfulness is really going to catapult your life in 2021. So today we're going to talk about attention and intention. And why does that relate to mindfulness and how? So mindfulness is being as is being aware. It's being in a state where you are in congruence with your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your emotions, and your body is in a state of homeostasis, right? That's what we're talking about with mindfulness. And when you're in a mindful state, everything that you do has more value, has more traction, has more you have more to give people in any situation. And in turn, of course, you make your life better because like I said, everything starts from within and then without. From inside, it comes into the world on the outside. So when we talk about attention and intention, it's very much related to mindfulness. And this is also a law of attraction practice. And having studied with Bob Proctor from The Secret, and I teach law of attraction to people, having attracted my business, my clients, different things into my life myself, I have a very good understanding of the law of attraction. I don't want to come off as a know-it-all, but I do know a lot about it because I've made huge mistakes with it. And one of those mistakes are attention and intention. So when you have an intention and you're not mindful of your intention astutely, I'm not saying you have to be obsessed with it every second of every day, but when you're doing certain things, if you have intention about what you're doing and how that could lead you to what you want to attract into your life, that's active mindfulness. The other thing is, when you place your attention on your intention, you're basically giving it water, fertile soil, good causative conditions for it to grow and flourish like you would a plant. Because you're placing attention on your intention for this to grow. So it automatically fuels it. So what do I mean by that? People frame affirmations, law of attraction affirmations all the time, and they come to me and they say, oh, I've been doing this affirmation for so long and it doesn't work. And then I give them an affirmation based on mindfulness and certain other principles, and they come back to me in like 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes even earlier, sometimes in 2 months, and they say, oh my God, it worked. Why did it work? I said, because you had the mindful mindset to place your attention on your intention consistently. And this can be done only in maybe 2 or 3 times a day. First thing when you wake up in the morning, because your subconscious is fresh. Last thing before you go to bed, because you're going to go into a state of into a deep alpha state, and then you're going to go into a theta state, and then you're probably going to go into a gamma state, okay? And the subconscious is active during all these times. Your conscious mind is not active, but your subconscious is active, and everything originates in the subconscious. So when you mindfully place your attention on your intention before you're going to go into bed, guess what? The subconscious is going to work on that. So think about these things. Where is your attention? What do you desire? Is your attention on that to intend it to bloom, to flourish, to grow? These are all mindfulness concepts also. Because so often we say affirmations, in front of the mirror, or we say affirmations to the universe, or we repeat them 100,000 times, and they never come true. Because your attention is not really on the intention. You're not feeling the affirmation. You're not visualizing the affirmation. You're not smelling, tasting, getting into the affirmation. That requires mindfulness, my dear friend. So think about that. I think that's enough for today, and I think you have enough to start off. But if you're interested, please reach out to me on 99165 Hop on to avrilsqs.com, and you can even email me at avril@avrilsqs.com, or even book a free call with me on Calendly on my website. I have two programs: Mind Your Mind for individuals and Mind Your Business for corporates. And I've been teaching this now consistently for so long, and corporates have caught on to it because they understand that this can really catapult not just their business in terms of ROI and profits, but also to retain happy employees who work for the benefit of the company and who also personally grow and flourish in their jobs. Thank you so much for joining me for this webinar. Stay true to being you, because you matter. I'm Avril Q, your sister in alignment and healing, and from my heart to yours, Atma Namaste, Satnam.